Welcome to Nourishing Maine. I'm Marge Kilkelly.
And I'm Mary Kate Rennie, and we're joined today with Paul Leeman from Round Pond, and we're going to make mulligatawny soup.
And I am thrilled to be here, and thank you so much for asking me.
Of course.
We're so happy. So we have all these wonderful ingredients. Tell us a little bit about this soup.
First, I used to chef at the Marine Center, and we had people from all over the world, and there was this one young lady named Mahima, and she was from India, and she had to be studying over here, so I thought I'd try to do something from her home country.
Delicious.
And so I obviously looked it up, Googled it and whatnot, and we chatted somewhat about it. And anyway, the mulligatawny soup originated from India, and it was known as curry soup. And then when the Brits got a hold of it, all this other stuff was thrown into it. And I've certainly thrown some other stuff into it and not stayed with the basic recipe. I found that it was a really good soup to use if we had a large group in with vegetarians, and I just would not use the chicken broth and use the veggie broth. And it was hearty enough so the ones that weren't vegetarian didn't know that they were eating just vegetarian, because I wanted to feed both with the same thing.
For sure. Yeah, and I think I read that mulligatawny means pepper water or something.
The way back.
And I don't know if that means, I know pepper, black pepper is put in the recipe, but I don't know if there's a spicy bite to it.
It's not, I don't do spicy bite really well.
Neither does Marge. Neither Marge does.
But the real secret is just a balance of the ginger and the curry powder, because both can be overwhelming.
Yep.
And so you just got to really go gentle taste. And,
I like that.
And you build it and taste as you go.
You know, and we're the same way. We'd love to, I mean, that's what recipes are for, right? You want to, build what you like, and then if you don't like a particular ingredient, like raisins. Paul isn't a fan of raisins, so he's brought cranberries instead, or dried cranberries.
And so anyone, when you're building soups, can go with the basic stuff, or you can step outside of the box, which I kind of like to do.
Me too.
Except with the clam chowder, New England clam chowder, you don't mess with the box.
So we're in October now, and we decided that apples would be a great ingredient to feature, and it doesn't always have to be sweet. A savory apple recipe is delicious, and that's what we're doing today with the soup. So.
And the apples add a little bit of sweetness to it, and it also adds more body. We don't have chunks of beef here, but it's nice to have a soup that has body to it.
So Paul, I mean, the part about you cooking is really interesting to me, because I've known you for a long time. And certainly my time in the legislature, I knew you as the fire chief, the go-to person for emergency information. And then all of a sudden I see a Facebook post that's Paul Leeman cooking again. I meant, again?
Yeah.
Really? So this is like a whole transition for you.
Well, I started at the Anchor Inn in the mid-'60s, working for my grandparents, doing dishes, lobsters, for $5 a week. And was glad to have it. I got a raise the following year to 50 cents an hour. and so restaurants was always in my life. I went away to school to become a marine biologist and worked at the Darling Center in the 70s and did that. But one time my dad went by a laundromat down in New Harbor, and he goes, that would be a good place for a restaurant. So we opened Samoset Restaurant and was there for 24 years. And after that, I went to the Marine Center as a cook, not as a marine biologist. And
what a good combination.
It really was. I could chat science with the kids and stuff. And so I was there for 18 years. And so off and on, I've earned a living cooking for 45 years. During that time, I got elected fire chief for the town of Bristol.
Sure. And
all of a sudden it came to me that I can't do both jobs at once. And so the town was kind enough to, for me to be hired as a full-time chief. And so I did 13 years as a chief, 3 years as a full-time chief. And then I decided it was time for me to retire. you got to know when to fold them. And fire chief, there's a lot of pressure.
Oh, there's a
lot
lot
of
of
pressure.
And you were totally the go-to person around
I
here.
loved it. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Well, after retiring from being chief, I was sitting there one night, having failed miserably on Facebook, trying to talk politics to people, and alienating a lot of my
let's not
dear
go there.
friends. And I remembered at the Downs, we'd bring people from all over the world, and there would be people out there with their countries at war with each other, and I watched them come in shy at first, but they would sit and eat, and it seemed to solve. You want to help me with that? I'm
absolutely.
yakking when I'm cutting.
It's the least I can do, Paul.
So you see people whose countries are at war become the best of friends, and I thought, you know something, instead of me trying to get involved with politics, people have been brought together, and wars have been solved by people breaking bread together.
Oh, that's exactly what Nourishing Maine's about,
And,
really.
and so I bought a pellet smoker, and this was before we started the Facebook page, and I really started getting into it. And so one night I'm sitting there and I'm going, I'm going to try, I'm technically challenged, to open a page for cooking, and it was like, Paul Leeman's cooking again, because I had an epiphany that I was cooking again, and it wasn't promoting my name, and so, I thought we'd get a dozen or so people.
I love the variety of recipes. It's just anybody can make them, well, most of the time.
We go from hot dogs, grilled cheeses, to maybe some of the more fancier ones. But we're up to almost 1,300 members now, and it is
just
kind.
rang true with folks, and they all want to be a part of it.
They do.
Yes.
And people that don't post, I have them stop me every day and say, my gosh, I'm using so many of these recipes that I see online, and you see fishermen, brawly men that are posting wonderful culinary delights, and it's warmed my heart.
Yes, Maine food and how you cook it and all the good things you talk about and bring into the picture, just over, like you said, breaking bread or sharing food or good ideas.
Ideas.
Sharing a good idea.
We have homesteaders. I can think of one in particular that he raises everything. He gets his own deer meat and stuff, and he shares some awfully interesting things. People share helpful hints on how to can, how to freeze, and so it's more than just cooking. What do you call it?
It's lifestyle.
It's lifestyle.
And I
Maine.
love it is Maine, and it's not fussy, and the best part is people will say, well, I think I have that in my refrigerator. I think I'm going to give that a whirl.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And I think it provides people with a tremendous
5-second rule.
Percy's around here somewhere.
a tremendous opportunity to post something and be in a supportive community.
It is.
And that's the other thing I've noticed is that people are just so wonderfully supportive of each other on there. And again, that's what Mary Kate and I are hoping to do as well with this, is to provide people with an opportunity to try something they maybe haven't tried before, to experiment, and to feel that it's a really good thing for them to be doing.
Yeah, and getting to know our local heroes, as we call them.
Yeah.
A lot of folks.
Our home cooking heroes.
Our home cooking heroes. A lot of folks know Paul from a lifelong career of service, but who knew that he's also a miracle worker in the kitchen? And hey, I want to join that party. So I think you're a perfect guest for this endeavor. So
Yeah.
we're really happy to have you.
So pleased.
I didn't want to be remembered as just a fire chief, even though
Well,
that
there
was
you
an
go.
honorable position. But there's more depth to me than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be out there fighting fires, or I can be here making soup.
Well, and that's the best part about getting to know people in different levels, and how we all celebrate and share, our love of food and Maine and all the different recipes we're coming across.
I think the other thing too that is really important is the whole thing about transition.
Yes.
Is that, we do different things in different times in our life, and it's really fun to look at what's next. It's not always about, what are you doing just now, but but what's next? And hopefully some folks will look at some of the things that we're doing, and maybe they're not going to be going into cooking, but maybe thinking about, what I really want to do is,
and that's
do it.
It's such a great question. Well, what's next for you?
Yeah.
Instead of like, what are you doing now? Or, you know what? It's just a lovely question. It's one of my favorites.
Now we need a bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. What Marge was saying is,
Those can go in there, Marge.
6 months ago, did I ever think I'd be standing here in Dresden talking about making a mulligatawny soup? And
No, you didn't.
no, I did not.
And thank goodness you are.
And when I retired, I had all this stuff I was going to do. Well, you kind of age out on some of the things in your physical ability, and to find this again is just it's rewarding.
Yes, there's so many different ways to to serve the community, but you found lots of ways, and staying active, and helping out in more ways than one.
One of the things that's really fun about this week is that we have our new Nourishing Maine aprons. And Paul, you get to take one home with you for being a guest on our show today, and we're just delighted that all this came about.
Who'd have thunk it? Really. And thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, you certainly are. I mean, you are the prime example of somebody who nourishes Maine in every way, shape, or manner in terms of taking care of people's safety and taking care of their tummies and everything else. So it was such a perfect thing for you to be able to join us. Well, and the thing that's interesting for me about curry is the smell of curry just goes all the way to my toes. I mean, I love the smell of curry. I mean, it's one, curry and basil, I think, are probably the two aromas that just are just sort of permeate all your cells. I don't know how else to say
I
it.
love curry as well, and a lot of folks might be a little spooked by it or might be put off by it, but the wonderful thing about this recipe is it gives a depth of flavor that you wouldn't automatically say that's curry.
No.
And that's not that, I mean, I love curry and I love all the spices that you normally cook with it, but that's another thing that's great about this recipe is that it's just that depth of flavor that it brings. It's not really spicy.
You know,
I think, well, and that's a good point, because I think some people are also afraid that if you say curry, it's got to be so hot that that they're not going to like it. And in fact, this is not a hot, spicy curry, and it can be if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and we're going to be building this recipe on the stovetop, getting the several of the different ingredients together first, as you had mentioned earlier. Some of them take a little bit longer to cook, and that brings its own aroma and loveliness, and then you can add all the rest and make it just right. So it starts with, well, let's bring in the apples, because that was the other piece, is that we wanted to have a savory recipe that included apples. And so that is the sweet note. And then there's sweet potatoes, there's carrots, onions, celery, tomatoes, zucchini, both the yellow and green, and peppers. And it calls for raisins, but we decided to put cranberries, dried cranberries in there.
Which is a good New England thing, by the way.
Which is a very good New England thing. And then the base of the broth can be either vegetable broth or chicken broth. And the creme de la resistance, or whatever the cool word is the coconut milk. Adds just a lovely, rich flavor to this. And this is added at the very end, right? Yeah.
And again, you go very gently on it, because too much would really mud it up. And
so we'll watch you do that part. Oh, and ginger, fresh ginger or powdered you can use as well. And then, of course, as we talked about, the curry powder. Did I miss anything? Pepper. Oh, and a splash of lemon juice as well, which really brings it all together, right?
It called for mace, couldn't find any. But
like you said,
it isn't gonna. You adapt to what we had.
Mm-hmm.
We're all about adapting.
We're all about
We
it.
are.
We're Mainers.
We are. Make do or do without.
That's exactly right.
Okay, I think it's time to get some of this started in the frying pan. What do you think, Paul?
Let's go.
All right. So we've got the oil in the pan yet?
Now it's gonna go.
Okay.
And you're using olive oil?
We're using olive oil. You can use veggie oil, avocado, but I'm a fan of olive oil.
Me too.
I know.
So what we're going to do is we're going to be sautéing, or you could even steam sauté the harder vegetables, And then once they're all done, we're going to be taking the softer ones with the spices and the other ingredients and marrying them.
All right.
That was good.
Let's start with the onions, yeah?
You bet.
All right, you've got it. I know the onions, celery, carrots, and sweet potatoes are a little softer, but I know we'll start with these three.
Yeah. And we're going to put the black pepper in once we get these all together.
All right.
And blend that.
And I noticed that when I read the recipe for the first time, it was for an army, right?
Well, I could.
I think it was your recipe from
the Down Center,
yeah.
so we could be doing 80 people.
Right?
with
Why not?
And holy cow, we got enough.
I think we cut it in half, and there's still plenty for everybody. Yeah.
So this is going to take some time to
All right.
put it up to temperature. Could I have the black pepper, please?
Of course.
This is one recipe that doesn't call for garlic
Or salt.
or salt.
And it was delicious.
I rarely salt any ingredients, especially when I was cooking at the center, because the kids would use sriracha just for everything.
Oh, I know.
And
A blanket.
a blanket. And,
A flavor blanket.
I like salt my own stuff,
I
and
do too.
everyone has their own requirement for that. Pepper, that blends well. Salt, you can kill a recipe with it. Let people kill their own.
You let them do it themselves.
Yeah.
But garlic, I was surprised there wasn't garlic in this.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not that surprising for an Indian recipe.
No.
But I didn't miss it.
You
There's
don't.
so much flavor here that you don't miss it. I want to add the ginger as well. I think that was in the
That's going to be
beginning.
on the
Toward the end,
towards the
so
end
you
because
don't
we
lose
don't
it.
want to be cooking
Gotcha.
the ginger.
Good.
So we got some time to kill
All
here
right.
before this
Good.
is ready.
That's all right.
Can I talk about one thing about the whole cooking?
Yeah.
And I call it our Facebook cooking page. and the kindness of people that are on there. I'm not into raising money.
Right.
But there was this real lady that needed it. She was an angel hospice caregiver, and she was in dire straits. I put it out there, and we raised an incredible amount of money to get her over the hump. She had some cardiac problems because bills keep coming in. And what I'm trying to get to is the caring of the people who share our cooking space.
Right, and by providing the platform, people would be happy to give. They don't know how or where,
No.
and all they needed to hear from you, Paul, very respected person in the community, was the name of the person and that you were bringing it all together. And I remember watching how quickly and how lovely
amazing.
that happened.
Amazing.
People
People from
that
all over the
local
country.
support carries you through for sure.
It does.
That's sounding really good.
Forgoing any mistakes of dropping it on the floor.
That is such a gorgeous
Isn't that
fall
pretty?
color. It's like embracing everything fall.
Right behind you. You can hand that off.
And so the temperature of this stuff going in is going to help heat that broth up for the sake of time and blend all the flavors. And now we'll start adding the soft ingredients. We'll do the zucchini, summer squash first, the sweet potatoes.
Yum.
The apples, which will be sweetening up the meal.
Absolutely. And I hope we don't run out of room.
We'll be fine. We're only going to add half of this rice.
Yep. And we
Got
go.
that? Yep.
We can wait until this. Oh God, that's going to be good.
No, it already smells delicious.
Why don't we put the ginger in?
And tomatoes.
Some ginger, and we'll do a very well-measured,
Perfect. Just enough.
and we hope that's enough.
He measures just like we do.
Yes.
I like it.
Ginger's very strong, but it's so good.
I know.
And I cheated and bought the
Yes, but it's concentrated. It's delicious.
This is really a good product.
Already
doing this with the grater and
know.
stuff, and you lose
And
nails.
some nickels, and some of the fresh ginger, and I do use both as well.
Yeah.
It can be really dry, and then you're not getting that yummy, concentrated ginger flavor.
So sometimes what I do is have candied ginger
Oh gosh, yes.
and then just chop it up and
Yep.
put it into a recipe.
That's a
and
good
that way
idea.
it doesn't, because I can buy a hand of ginger, and then I don't use it all.
Right.
But if you use the candied ginger, or candy it yourself, and then you have a syrup, all good.
It's
All good. The curry,
What's
is it
the
going
recipe
in?
call on that?
I think it was a couple of tablespoons, but I like your measuring. Oh, there it is, handwritten. All right, and this is the large recipe, right? The large amount recipe.
So we're gonna. And
Three
actually, I know
table-
I'm just doing this
I
for
know you
fun.
are. So this calls for 3 tablespoons of curry. So
Well,
you're
we're-
going to go a little lighter.
We're gonna go light, and it's so easy to add versus take out.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay, so anyway, we're gonna cap it at that. That was probably, I don't even think it was a tablespoon, but this is.
It smells
This is some powerful
so
stuff.
amazing.
I love the handwritten recipe card.
That
Lovely.
I did that.
I mean that.
Thank you. I've got some of my grandmother's, clams and batter,
What fun.
and I got all mine in that little. And if the house catches on fire,
Oh my gosh.
it's going with me.
I get
It's going
it.
with me.
The seeing the handwriting of people you love who are gone now, it is just a
Oh,
gift. It's a gift from the
it is.
past.
It
It
is.
really is.
Yeah.
And my mom always hand wrote hers and
I know.
stuff. Oh my God. A little sentimental. And speaking of that, one of the other funny things that which I don't require new plates. I've had these since I was a kid because they were my mom's, and we always got them at First National as free gifts. And so one of the comments is I got that too, my mom got that too, and so everyone's cooking on the same stuff.
Oh.
And
I
all
agree.
good.
It's, you have your favorite mug. You remember seeing people that you love, drinking from it or using it in the kitchen, ladles or utensils. I know it's a.
And you think about just what fun it must have been when somebody got it new and just different.
those were tough times.
They
and,
were.
and so she worked for First National Stores for decades, and that was where Rennie's was.
Sure.
And to see her bring those home, that after buying, you can feed a family on $10 a week. But anyway, it was all free, and but to see her bring those home with such pride
And you still have them.
lemon juice,
Oh,
cran raisins.
are you going to? And yeah, we need to add those. Those will soften up. You're going a couple splashes, are you?
This is going to be very, very well measured.
All right.
There you go.
This is.
I like measuring.
I know.
And again, that's why we're cooks and not bakers.
What do you think? Want
want
to do some
tomatoes?
pie? Yeah, let's do those. We're going to run out of room, so we may
Well,
not
that
need.
one maybe.
You're going to be fine.
You're going to be fine.
We're gonna have
We'll
to
add
worry
one can of those and then 1 can of the.
We're going to do
coconut
the.
milk. We'll save that for last,
Let's
right?
do the parsley to give it more color.
Oh, you got it. And we have to add a little bit of rice. We don't have to do the whole
No.
2 cups. Here's some parsley.
Thank you.
You bet. And you've got a spoon there for the rice. That looks
Oh, it's so beautiful.
splash of color.
Fall lunch with a nice piece of bread.
Want to do a
Let's,
separate spoon? Possibly.
Yeah, if we could do a separate spoon.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome.
That's the soup
Thank
spoon.
you.
You bet.
And when you're putting the rice in, obviously it clumps it up. So you got to, just work your spoon
So
around.
that's cooked rice.
That's
It is.
right.
I cooked it yesterday. It calls
Okay.
for white rice, but I like the long grain wild rice. And
Okay.
It's, Mr. Ben's, Uncle Ben's, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I did sneak some for supper last night.
There you
Oh,
go.
there.
Let's see how that works.
I think that's looking delicious.
And that rice, as it sets, is going to also add as a little bit of a thickener because it sucks up some of the. Oh my gosh.
Some of that liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then once we put the final touch of the coconut milk on top, it'll be
It
plenty.
will be plenty.
It's looking great.
It's beautiful.
I'm going to toss a little more rice in.
You know.
We got room.
We do have room.
We got room.
That's
We're
the
getting
last.
close.
We are, but
I'm going to let Joe move this when it's time.
almost perfect.
Yeah, we depend on Joe a lot.
Yes.
We've always, Joe can always figure out a way. That's why it's
Awesome.
Joe's way.
Joe's way.
And knowing that there's no way that we can finish this batch today, we're going to ask Joe for help on how to freeze some extra soup. That works beautifully. So we'll get into that a little later.
This should freeze okay. It may mush up a little bit, but your veggies are already tender anyway.
Yeah, right.
So I can't see anything. Want to do that? That's sort of the grand finale, as they say.
So we'll do a small twirl.
Your wooden spoon for that? Or?
Hopefully it'll drop.
Oh, it'll pour. Oh, okay, pouring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think one more can of that would work well.
We can do that.
And we may overflow, but I hope not.
I know that winter is usually the month that soup is really popular, but I find I make soups so much more often in the fall.
Oh,
Those first chilly days or first frosty days, that's when I want it. So
November,
hits the
gray,
spot.
cold day.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the finished product.
All right.
Mulligatawny soup.
Mulligatawny soup.
We have lunch and I can't wait. Thanks, Paul.
You're very welcome.
That smells amazing, but it sure is a lot of soup.
Even though we're all going to have a little bit for lunch.
I think we're going to have to think about some ways that we can save that soup for later on. And I know that there's a Joe way of dealing with that.
Whenever we make soup, we always make too much. I don't want to eat it for a week. I don't want to throw it out, but I do want to save it and freeze it. So what I do is, you end up with a kettle like this, is I take a can, a tomato can such as this, take the label off, cut the bottom out, and end up with a can like this. In order to freeze it, you slide a bag into it, and then just ladle your soup right into the bag. Easy to seal, and you don't get it all over the counter and all over you. You can just scoop it up, pour it in. You can actually seal it while it's right in the can, pick it out, and you're ready to go. And that's the Joe way, with a big smile.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Now we're serving up our mulligatawny soup for lunch. It's steaming hot and smells delicious.
It is gorgeous. Gorgeous. All right.
These are nice deep bowls, but let's top these off. And then we can give it a taste.
Yum.
Right?
Thank you
You're
for
very
providing
welcome.
lunch for us today.
I love the idea of all these ingredients.
I see it.
Oh, it smells so good.
Not bad, huh? After all these years. Still have it in you.
It has, it's interesting with the vegetables. There's some crunch in the vegetables. There's some softness in the vegetables. There are, I mean, you keep hearing layers of flavor. I mean, there are layers of flavor. You can taste the ginger in the curry, but nothing overwhelms.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, they're still fresh, but not mushy.
I agree. I'm just savoring it.
Thank you, Paul. This is
You're very
delicious.
welcome.
It's
Thank
been
you,
a
girls.
blast being with you today.
It's been
For
great
inviting
fun.
me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks.
May I?
Yes,
And may I?
Of course.